So this is just one day. Chris is gonna have to fuss about these plants, but I knew I was bringing them home. And so what led us to Lidl today, y'all, is we had to go get the car service, and they were going to be a few hours. So I picked Chris up, but I was like, look, Lidl's is about 15 to 20 minutes away from us, and I need to go see what they have as far as gardening. So when we stayed in Germany back in the early 2000s, there were both Lidl and Aldi. So I'm very used to both of these stores. However, I looked it up. It's not as many Lidls in the US as there are Aldis, but they're very similar, but not owned by the same company. All right, so y'all see it as soon as before you even go in. Here are some vegetable plants. They had peppers, cucumbers, tomatoes. They are $4.99. Now what you see me doing here is trying to see how many are in the container. The cucumbers had about two, the peppers had about two, but the tomatoes, it was only one tomato per container, but I'm always on the lookout. But these were $4.99 right here for your vegetable plants. Right here, they were supposed to be, I think, different herbs. They're in smaller pots. I did see a cucumber and a cantaloupe. They're supposed to be $1.99, but I think these are a little older plants. And then they had just this one fig left, the very one fig. That was $10.99 right here. And then as you go down, they had like some landscaping plants right here. These were $7.99. This was like a blue, let me see, blue juniper blue star. They also had the calla lilies. Those were $6.99 right here. And I'm not sure of the type or the color, but I love calla lilies. These right here were Rose and Ivy Garden. These are $14.99. I'm going to pull it out for you because it's like the miniature roses with the ivy on the side in those containers right there. And look at me knocking these people's stuff down. But one thing about it, y'all, is when I knock things down or different things like that, I pick it up. I do not leave it like it is. These are the Kalana Koas. These were 6 counts. They were $11.99. They had different colors of these as well if you want to mass plant them. So they ended up being like $2 per plant. And then the roses, y'all, the mini roses, 6-pack for $11.99. They also ended being like $2 per plant, and they had a variety of beautiful colors. And it looks like they had just put these out, so they were fresh. They were watered, and that's why I said they were coming home with me. When you go inside of the store, they had these are mini roses too. They were $4.99. They probably had maybe about 2 of those roses in there. Maybe one that had just gotten a little bit bigger, but they did have some colors that were not part of that 6-pack that I just showed you. And so if you just wanted an individual one, those were $5. These were bare root shrubs. They were $3.99, and they had things like the Nico Blue hydrangea, the Forsythia, the Annabelle hydrangea. And these are just a more inexpensive way when you get them bare root to be able to start your garden. They also had bare root fruits such as raspberries and different grapes, and they also had blueberries as well in here. And again, these were $4.99. And right here they had, I think these are like the Easter cactuses. They have like the Thanksgiving cactus, the Christmas cactus, but I think that these were the Easter cactus. It says spring cactus, and those were $5.99. So if you're used to seeing the different cactuses, you'll see that their flowers are a little bit different, but they had different colors, really pretty. And they also had the vegetable bare root. They didn't have very many. I had to struggle with these boxes because I was like, okay, what is going on? What's what? So I had to look and I had to read and I had to kind of understand what exactly is going on. But these were the regular spring planted flowers like your gladiolus, and you had like the different mixes in here. They also had the anemones. For here in Georgia, a lot of times I'll fall plant the anemones, but they also had like two calla lilies right here. That's a pretty contrast. And then they just had different plants, y'all. Different varieties, different plants, different colors of like the gladiolus and the anemones. And this is really what was left of like the vegetable bare root plants that you saw earlier. So they just had like two different type of asparagus, and those were like $2.99, but it was only two of those left in there. And what I was trying to figure out is because they had like a small pack, but then they also had, it said perennials on here. These are like $1.99. But when I looked at this African lily, which is one of the ones that I bought, you have to dig up the bulb. Like it's, if you want it to be a perennial, I guess you got to dig it up and then you have to plant it again. And then they also had the oriental and the different Asian lilies as well. Okay, so if you need a bigger space and want to plant a mass planting, then they had a lot of the bulbs. They basically had gladiolus bulbs, but you get 75 for $10.99. They had different colors in here, but this is like if you have a big space and you want to plant a lot. They also had the foliage hanging basket. Most of these were ivies for $9.99. And then the different colonicoas, those were $6.99. These were the bigger plants. These were not like the ones we saw outside, and they just kind of dressed it up with like a decorative hat or something that you see, kind of like a decorative hat. And then the pot, they had that for the colonicoas and for the miniature roses right here. They also had tropical foliages for $5.99. Now, y'all, I don't do a whole bunch of indoor plants. I do have some, but they had a lot of like indoor type plants as well. And then they had like the little mini succulents right here. Those were $4.99, just kind of like in little decorative containers. And these right here, like the hyacinth and the daffodils, they on their way out, if we just being honest. Yeah. But they did have the orchids. Orchids are $14.99, and so they had a lot of different pots. So this pot, although this says seed starting tray set on here, this is not. This is kind of like the pots that go on the patio or the balcony. Pretty long there too. I couldn't find the price, but I'm not sure what it was. But they also had a 2-pack hanging planters right here. And those were on sale for $9.99. They were the hanging basket planters. They also had fabric staples, which I used quite a bit of those. And those were $4.99 for 50 count. Garden gloves, go through a lot of those. You got 2 packs. And those were $3.99. Now I'm gonna link the Aldi video because I want y'all to see the difference with the prices, and I also want you to see the difference with like the different gardening things that they have as well. And so they had the seed starting pellets, but this is what I wanted to show y'all. Like, I thought this was cool. This is, you get like 30 different bulbs in here. So if you wanted like a certain color, only that color of different types of plants, like the gladiolus, the anemone, then they were $6.99. They call it color collection. So you could do red, you could do yellow, or you could do pink. But it's like 4 different varieties of the plants that you see for $6.99. And so up here, some of the prices and some of the labels didn't match, but I'm just showing y'all what I saw, especially seed starting. So if you need to pot up, individual pots right here, I don't know how much it was, but it was a 30 count. So you can start cucumbers, squash, marigolds, all type of good things in there. And just like Aldi's, they had this twine, and but this one now, the Aldi's didn't have that. That's why I want y'all to go back and look at it. This is like plant binding assortment. So these were a little bit thicker. They also had the seed starting tray kit. Um, and those were $6.99. So you got like four of the bottom watering pans, four of the seed starting cell trays, and four of the domes. And so you got those for $6.99. This is the three propagation plant propagation set, $9.99. And then also, was this the planter box that I was looking at? This is a different one. It's pretty long, but this is like the self-watering, and that was $9.99. And then also your watering can, if y'all need a new one, it is $6.99. And then they had two different types. So this is the coconut core matte right here, and then this right here is the jute felt right here. I haven't used these before, so y'all let me know what you use them for. The potting bench, let me tell y'all about this. I went all around trying to find the price for y'all, but I don't know. I can assume that it might be between $39.99 like all these, but I don't know. And the manager even came and moved some stuff around, but he didn't put a price on it, so I don't know. But they do have a potting bench. They have seed starter pots and pellets for $2.99. If you need another a wall mounted retractable hose, this was on sale for $54.99 right here. And then they had the different pots. These came with the saucer. So they had gray, and then they also had like a more of a tan color, but the 11-inch was $3.99, and then the 15-inch that you see right here, that one was $6.99. But they came with the saucer, because a lot of stores you got to buy the saucer separate. They also had this plant stand right here. 1, 2, 3 tier plant stand. These are the dimensions of it, and these were $19.99. And if you need a spray bottle, $1.29. I use a lot of spray bottles for these garden pests like aphids and different things like that. So they also had this trellis. Again, y'all look at the dimensions of it. This is a trellis if you have some vining plants, and this was $7.99. So that's not really a bad deal at all. Like if you need a trellis, that's pretty good. Also, they have these privacy screens. These are $24.99. So they have like the bamboo and like the false ivy on here. And I'm trying to turn it around so that I can let y'all see the dimensions of it, depending on how much you want to cover up. These are the dimensions. They are expandable. You might need 1, you might need 3, you might need 5, but these are privacy screens right here. So they also had a seed display set up with all your different type of seeds, including flowers, including vegetables, including organics, including herbs. So seed starting is in full effect around here. And you can see a lot of people have been starting seeds because it's starting to get a little empty. Next, they had just like live plants, like your lilies, and then they also had your daffodils as well. They had quite a few of those, and those were $8.99. Now I'm turning around, y'all, because I kept smelling something, and I'm like, what is that smell? But I guess it's the organic mix. Those are $9.99 outdoor potting mix. This is 25 cubic feet, I want to say. And then they just had like your regular soil, your potting mix, your organic potting mix, different brands, Scott's potting soil. Those are $6.99. And then I really wanted to show y'all this, okay? So even if you want to buy herbs, go ahead and grow them, okay? Because if you grow them one time, then you can continue to harvest. One plant, $3.29, and you may throw it away. Even if you don't want the plant that's in the store, then if you need some basil, $3.99. When you can just start you some seeds, y'all, and plant and continue to harvest. But anyhow, the plant stands. You need to put that basil, start you some basil and put it on the plant stand, because this is $9.99, and you get two. You get two of those. They had different garden decor items. So they had these garden frogs, I guess, the garden figurine frogs. You got 3 count of those. You got the solar fountain. Now the garden figurines were $6.99. The solar fountain was $7.99. The garden gnome is $6.99 as well. So if you just want to add some things to your garden. And then they had this lighthouse decorative things. And then the string lights were $4.99. This was like a multicolored. And then the lantern, those were $7.99. So all types of different garden decor. I picked up this solar fountain kit because I needed another one. $7.99. It wasn't a bad deal, but I did end up putting that back because the one that I got now, it changes colors at night, and these don't have a light, nor does it change colors. But $7.99 is still good. Then they had this greenhouse, y'all. This was the only greenhouse that was left. This was one greenhouse. And I think this is more of like a walk-in greenhouse. These are the dimensions of it right here. But again, there was only one greenhouse left, and that was $49.99. Okay, so let's move along with our cart here. A patio furniture set, $139. You get a table, and you get 2 chairs right here to sit on your patio. They had more different types of gloves. Okay, so right here, this is a telescoping plant caddy, and I had to like really look at this for a moment, because telescoping, y'all, sometimes I just stare at things trying to figure it out. Okay, but they also had some landscape edging. They had it in black. They had it in green as well. It was $4.99. I stood here for a minute to really feel this, and I wasn't sure. I don't know. Sometimes I'm just in the store wondering, but there you have it. So this is what I purchased, and I took it right on out to that truck. Yes, Chris did shake his head. Yes, he did, because in his words, I don't need any more plants. But these just had to come home, y'all. They looked like they had just been put out, and they just had to come home. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Go check out your local Lidl. See what they have in your area, and let us know in the comments. And until the next video, bye, y'all.